Southeastern Wildlife Exposition returns next month to celebrate this region's wildlife and natural beauty. Today, I talk one-on-one with the president and CEO of SEWE, John Powell, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, sponsored by the Wetmore Law Firm. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. John Powell with the Southeastern Wildlife Exposition. Welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview, sponsored by the Wetmore Law Firm.
Thanks, Quintin. Nice to be here.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly, and I want to let the viewers know that the Wetmore Law Firm is committed to the community. The law firm is proud to serve the nation, the state, and local governments through their extensive criminal justice service and as advocates for crime victims. Their broad experiences provide unique insight, and the relationships that they have nurtured will actually foster goodwill here in the Lowcountry. And of course, you can find out more about their law firm at wetmorelawfirm.com. But John, I know that the Southeastern Wildlife Exposition, better known as SEWE, is a 3-day event that celebrates wildlife and all of nature's beauty. So tell me, what's new, what's now with SEWE this year?
Quintin, we're really looking forward to welcoming a lot of new artists and exhibitors to our template and our set of exhibit sites that people have grown to be familiar with. The backdrop often looks the same, but we're hosting a bunch of new artists. Our featured artist, Ray Brown, has created an incredible body of work. And then exhibitors, from Brittlebank Park to Marriott to Gilliard and Marion Square, people are going to uncover some things they haven't seen before. So a lot of new things to be seen.
And you talk about those new artists, John. So how many new artists will be coming this year in total?
Typically, both artists and exhibitors, as we classify them here internally, you're going to see about 20 to 30% new. We rotate some age out, some don't travel to shows every year. It really just depends. We try to keep that fresh, and especially the featured artists, as we like to focus on. And then even the individual artists that come every year have a new collection of work. So they may have 10 to 15 paintings, sculptures that no one's seen before.
Wow. What other types of collections do you hope that people will actually see this year at SEWE?
Well, again, the Fine Art Gallery at Charleston Place, I want them to see those 80 plus artists and sculptors and their work. It's really the central focus of what we do. But if you look around to other exhibitors, especially, antique decoys and things of that nature, you'll see collections by individuals or, new contemporary things that have been carved for the show.
Wow. And I know obviously the exposition is the largest event of its kind, and as social life resumes here in Charleston, as you know, 20,000 visitors are expected to attend SEWE, and I know that's what was the case back in 2023. So how many people do you expect to attend this year?
About the same. When it really depends a little bit on a number of factors, weather being included. Those 20,000 are the outside of the Tri-County area, so they're driving in from the upstate. North Carolina, Georgia are really big. Then you get into Virginia, Florida, across the Southeast, New York, Texas, and then where our featured artist is actually from, California. So we are expecting the same. We ticket sales right now year over year are up, which we're excited about. Interest in our site and on social is up over last year. So all signs point to us hitting a 20,000 plus number of visitors.
Wow. And how many tickets do you have left?
We have a few. One of the things that we do is we do still sell tickets on site if we have them left, and we let the public know if we're going to run short. And you can get those tickets through our website until February 1st every year. And then the Gilliard Center and the local visitor centers also have our tickets that are discounted up until that date, and then at the exhibit sites during the show.
Wow, that's just amazing. And I know, John, you've been involved with SEWE for close to 20 years, I believe. So what has been the biggest change when it comes to SEWE's innovation and allows people to keep coming back?
Well, I think it's the small intricacies that are, again, within this model that people have grown accustomed to. I mean, I think the familiarity of our show is something that we want to allow people to have, especially that come every year, and they're creatures of habit. So, new shows, new entertainment, new education pieces. And again, having new bodies of work and new exhibitors every year. They know they can come, be comfortable, but see something new and something that they've grown accustomed to.
Wow. John, which one of those collections have actually stunned you personally?
It's hard to say. I don't. I try not to have favorites.
Right.
I think each year, there's a painting or a sculpture that typically moves me. I have the advantage of getting a sneak peek before it opens up to the public, and so I can take my time and see that work, and that's what inspires us. That's what gets the staff excited. And when we have art online and that gets sold to someone who's out west, we know we're supporting our artists. We know that we're constantly bringing attention to the city of Charleston. um, it's a big win for us.
What is the state of the art scene here in the Low Country as you see it?
I think it's strong. We have this sort of short time period every year where we're focused on it. You know, from a physical standpoint, where we actually have the work here, we're always promoting work online, and part of our efforts are to promote local artists along with emerging. But also keep a national, if not international, presence. And we haven't really seen, much of a drop off. I think there was this post COVID flurry of activity and money being spent and art being collected. Um, and we're sort of figuring out what that new normal is, but I think it's strong.
What exactly is that new normal for SeaWe?
Well, I think it's the same as it was before that. We our attendance was increasing, still is, to the point that it's still comfortable for people to enjoy the show, and for the Peninsula of Charleston infrastructure to handle the crowds. I mean, you talk about the 20,000 visitors, that's on top of 20,000 plus locals that are, coming to downtown, or to our special events. So we're constantly watching that and trying to balance it.
Wow. And speaking of balance, John, you talk about obviously trying to maintain that national, international scene for you all. So how do you balance that and maintain that with this new normal that you just mentioned?
Well, I mean, there's no perfect science to it, but let's just say we take our artist category, we say what, we really need to see, some local presence in here. And, do we have some emerging talent that'll become a loyal artist to the show and be with us for many years? There's some really great, accomplished, veterans of wildlife art that are sort of aging out. They maybe don't do as many shows anymore because it's difficult for them to travel or produce the amount of work that they once did. And so we take all those things into consideration on top of, the price of someone's work, or, medium, or however you want to look at it. So again, there's no science, but we just take a step back and we look at what we're offering and say, okay, this is enough.
And how have you actually embraced those new and emerging technologies to enhance the SeaWe experiences for those guests?
Well, if you're someone like me, you have a younger generation of able-minded staff, and we have some third-party marketing support, that understands you know marketing when it comes to the web and social and those sorts of things. Uh, but there's some irony in that we promote heavily online, and that's how we find so many new customers. But it's the being at SeaWe, it's being present at the show and speaking to an artist. I mean, all of our artists are present with their work. So it's not just looking at something online. It's the engagement between collector and artist, seeing a piece in person rather than just online. And so our focus is online to get people here, but I think the enjoyment comes from everyone gathering.
Oh, absolutely. And John, this might be an off the beaten question, but what wildlife art trends are you and your team currently looking at for the future of SeaWe?
I think it's when it comes to subject matter. I mean, I think we're not as focused on that as we are some of these emerging artists. New art forms. Maybe we have sort of strict classifications of how we present some of our work because they can get a little complicated. But some of the new artists and emerging artists out there, especially from out west, and we want to cultivate some of those that are from the southeast. So again, tapping into the youth. We have Kids for Conservation programs. We support South Carolina Junior Duck Stamp. knowing that there's wildlife in some of these art programs, for children, and people to their teens, and watching them and seeing some of them come to the show later on is rewarding. But we have to keep doing that and tie that message into conservation and outdoor experiences and a lifestyle.
Mm,
And that's what our show is all about.
Oh, absolutely. And what exactly is that message for conservation, John, in your mind?
Well, my mind is going to be different than everybody's. I think people look at conservation differently. Mine's very broad. I'm a huge believer in habitat, balance, growth, and native species and things of that nature. So, I mean, if you have someone who's an outdoorsman and likes the pursuit of turkeys or deer or ducks, I mean, you may find that's where they place their conservation efforts. And then there's some that look on an international stage. Money that goes from the United States or even here that's raised for a project in Africa. I mean, so it's a very very broad conversation, and one that we really enjoy having at SEWE, whether it's our partners at South Carolina Department of Natural Resources or someone like the National Marine Mammal Foundation, who many of them travel from overseas, I mean, not overseas, but across the country, but they have a local office, right here in Charleston. There's a lot you can learn, a lot you can tap into.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of which, John, what do you hope the conversation will be about seaweed in the next 5 years?
I think, I want people to focus on our stability. We're an automatic, except for, some sort of devastating event. We're here every year. We have been for 42 years, and we'll be 43rd here in just a little bit. When you see a January that maybe is not as busy for the hospitality industry, and we know how key those the people that work in that industry are to our community. And then on top of that, you get snow for 3 or 4 days that shuts it down. That's a pretty big pushback for our hotel and restaurant and extended hospitality partners. So to know that they can count on us and those 20,000 that are from outside of the Tri-County that are coming to stay in those hotels, to dine in those restaurants, to shop all over downtown. And when they come, they don't just stay downtown. They stay in West Ashley. They stay in Mount Pleasant, out to the beaches. We push individuals and rates all the way to Somerville. And so we're that direct impact for those individuals. We have a close to $35 million economic impact for the state, and we want to be known as an event that cares about not only wildlife, art, and conservation, but our community and the economic impact that we can have.
John Powell with the Southeastern Wildlife Exposition. Thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview, sponsored by the Wetmore Law Firm.
Thanks, Quintin.
Thank you.